Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could quietly change the direction of your entire life. Before your phone lights up, before the noise of the world floods your mind, there is a small window in the morning where your brain is soft, open, and programmable. Most people waste it. They scroll. They worry. They react. And without realizing it, they hand over control of their entire day. But not you. Because today, you're going to learn 5 simple words, just 5, that can rewire how you think, how you act, and ultimately, who you become. And here's the truth no one tells you: your life is not controlled by your circumstances. It is controlled by the thoughts you repeat daily. So imagine waking up every morning, and instead of doubt, you install power. Instead of fear, you install clarity. Instead of hesitation, you install action. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just understand these words, you'll feel them. And once you feel them, you won't go back. But before we go deeper, do something for yourself right now. Subscribe to this channel. Because this is not just content, this is a system for building a stronger mind, a sharper focus, and a more disciplined life. If you're serious about growth, you belong here. Now, let's begin. The 5 words are simple. I control how I respond. Say that again in your mind. I control how I respond. These words are not motivational fluff. They are power. They are discipline. They are freedom. Because every single day, life will test you. Someone will disrespect you. Something will go wrong. Plans will fail. You will feel tired, distracted, unmotivated. And in those moments, most people react. They react with anger. They react with excuses. They react with fear. But the difference between average people and strong minds is simple: response over reaction. When you say, I control how I respond, you take back authority. You are no longer a victim of the day. You become the architect of it. Think about that. If someone speaks negatively to you, you don't have to absorb it. If something goes wrong, you don't have to panic. If you feel lazy, you don't have to obey that feeling. Because you control the response. And that changes everything. Now let's go deeper. Most people wake up and immediately enter reaction mode. Their alarm goes off, they feel tired, and the first thought is, I don't feel like doing this today. That one thought shapes everything that follows. Their energy drops. Their focus disappears. Their discipline weakens. But what if instead, the first thought was intentional? I control how I respond. Suddenly, tiredness is not a command, it's just a feeling. And feelings are temporary. But decisions, those are powerful. You see, discipline is not about never feeling weak. It's about choosing strength even when weakness shows up. That's what these 5 words train you to do. Every morning, before you even get out of bed, pause. Take a breath. And say it slowly, with meaning. I control how I respond. Say it until it feels real. Because repetition rewires belief. And belief drives behavior. Now let's talk about the second layer of this. Control. Most people are obsessed with controlling things they cannot control. They try to control outcomes. They try to control other people. They try to control the future. And when those things don't go their way, they suffer. But control is not about controlling everything. It's about controlling the only thing that truly belongs to you, your response. You can't control the weather. But you can control your preparation. You can't control people's opinions. But you can control your confidence. You can't control unexpected problems. But you can control your mindset when they appear. This is where strength is built. Not in perfect conditions, but in controlled responses. Now imagine this. You wake up. You repeat the 5 words. You step into your day with awareness. Something goes wrong, and instead of reacting emotionally, you pause. That pause is power. Because in that pause, you choose who you are. Are you the person who complains? Or the person who adapts? Are you the person who quits? Or the person who adjusts and keeps moving? Every moment becomes a choice. And every choice becomes your identity. This is how transformation happens, not in one big decision, but in hundreds of small controlled responses. Let's keep going. There's another reason these 5 words matter. They eliminate excuses. When you say, "I control how I respond," you remove the ability to blame. You can't blame your mood. You can't blame your past. You can't blame your environment. Because you've accepted responsibility. And responsibility is not a burden, it's power. Because once you accept that your response is yours, you realize something important. You can change your life at any moment. Not next year. Not someday. Right now. With one decision. That's why these 5 words are so dangerous, in a good way. They force you to step up. They force you to grow. They force you to become better than your excuses. Now let's talk about mornings again. Why morning? Because the morning sets the tone for everything. Win the morning, and you build momentum. Lose the morning, and you spend the rest of the day catching up. So instead of rushing, instead of reacting, create a ritual. Wake up. Sit up. Breathe. And say it. I control how I respond. Let it sink in. Then carry it with you. When you face traffic, remember it. When you face stress, remember it. When you feel like quitting, remember it. This is not just a morning phrase. It's a daily weapon. And the more you use it, the stronger you become. Now here's something important. This will feel unnatural at first. Because your brain is used to reacting automatically. But don't stop. Consistency beats comfort. Repeat it every day. Live it every day. And slowly, your default will change. You'll become calmer under pressure. More focused in chaos. More disciplined when it matters. That's the rewiring. That's the transformation. And that's how you separate yourself from the crowd. Most people will never do this. They'll keep reacting. Keep blaming. Keep staying the same. But you're here. You're listening. Which means you're already different. So don't waste that. Use it. And if you've made it this far, take a second right now, subscribe to the channel. Because this is just the beginning. There's a lot more coming that will challenge you, sharpen you, and push you to another level. Now let's close this with something powerful. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, before anything else, say the words. Say them slowly. Say them with intention. I control how I respond. And then prove it, with your actions. Because at the end of the day, it's not what you say once. It's what you live, repeatedly. That's how minds are rewired. That's how lives are changed. And that's how you become unstoppable. Good, now let's go even deeper, because understanding the words is one thing, living them when it's hard is something else entirely. Because the real test of I control how I respond is not when life is easy. It's when everything goes wrong at once. When you wake up late. When your plans collapse. When someone disappoints you. When your energy is low and your motivation is nowhere to be found. That's the moment most people break. Not because they're weak, but because they've never trained their response. So let's train it right now. Picture this. You wake up, already behind schedule. Your mind starts racing. Today is ruined. I'm too tired. I'll just try again tomorrow. That voice is automatic. But this is where you interrupt it. You pause. And you say, I control how I respond. Suddenly, the situation hasn't changed, but you have. Now instead of spiraling, you simplify. What's the next best action? Not the perfect plan. Not fixing everything at once. Just the next step. You get up. You move. You start. And that small shift keeps your day alive. This is how strong people operate. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Now let's talk about emotions. Because many people think control means suppressing how you feel. That's not true. You will feel anger. You will feel frustration. You will feel doubt. Control is not about pretending those feelings don't exist. It's about choosing what you do with them. You can feel angry and still act with discipline. You can feel tired and still take action. You can feel fear and still move forward. That's real control. Because emotions are signals, not commands. And once you understand that, you stop being controlled by every mood that passes through you. Now imagine applying this to your biggest struggles. Procrastination. You don't feel like starting. So you delay. You scroll. You wait. But instead of waiting for motivation, you interrupt the pattern. I control how I respond. And your response becomes action. Even if it's small. Even if it's messy. Because action builds momentum. And momentum builds discipline. Now let's take another example. Disrespect. Someone says something negative to you. Normally you react. You argue. You defend. You carry that energy all day. But this time, you pause. I control how I respond. And you choose silence. Or clarity. Or simply walking away. And just like that, you protect your peace. That's power. Not loud, not dramatic, but controlled. Now let's go deeper again. There's a hidden benefit to these 5 words. They build self-trust. Because every time you choose your response intentionally, you prove something to yourself. You prove that you're not weak. You prove that you can handle pressure. You prove that you are reliable. And over time, that becomes confidence. Not fake confidence. Not loud confidence. But quiet, unshakable confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. Because it's built on evidence. Evidence that you show up. Evidence that you act. Evidence that you stay in control when others lose it. That's the kind of mindset that changes your entire life. Now here's something you need to understand. This is not a one-day practice. This is daily. Relentless. Consistent. Because your old habits will fight back. Your mind will try to go back to reacting. That's normal. But every time you catch it, and choose again, you win. Even if it's just once a day at first. That one moment matters. Because it's the beginning of a new pattern. And patterns create identity. Now let's talk about identity. Who you believe you are shapes everything. If you believe you're someone who reacts emotionally, you will keep doing it. If you believe you lack discipline, you will prove it every day. But when you start living by, I control how I respond, you begin to see yourself differently. You become the person who stays calm. The person who takes action. The person who adapts. And once that identity is built, your behavior follows naturally. That's the real rewiring. Not forcing change. Becoming someone new. Now let's slow this down for a moment. I want you to imagine your future self. The version of you who has control. Who doesn't get easily distracted. Who doesn't quit when things get uncomfortable. Who doesn't let emotions dictate every decision. That version of you already exists, as a possibility. And the bridge between where you are now and that version is your response. Moment by moment. Decision by decision. Day by day. Now here's where most people fail. They wait. They wait for the perfect moment. The perfect mood. The perfect circumstances. But that moment never comes. Because growth happens in imperfect conditions. So instead of waiting, you decide. Right now. That no matter what happens today, you will control how you respond. Not perfectly. But intentionally. And that's enough. Because perfection is not required. Consistency is. Now as we continue, I want you to lock this in. Say it again slowly. I control how I respond. Feel it. Because this is no longer just a phrase. It's a standard. A rule you live by. A mindset you carry everywhere. And once you truly adopt it, nothing outside of you will have the same power over you again. Stay with me, because we're about to take this even further. Because there will be days when everything hits at once. Pressure from work. Expectations from people. Doubts from your own mind. And in those moments, you won't rise to your intentions, you will fall to your training. So the question is, what are you training every single day? If you train reaction, you'll react under pressure. If you train control, you'll stay grounded when it matters most. That's why repetition is everything. Let's build a deeper practice. Not just saying the words, but living them through structure. Every morning, after you say, "I control how I respond," I want you to visualize 3 situations that could test you today. Maybe it's a difficult conversation. Maybe it's a task you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a moment where you know you'll feel tired or frustrated. See it clearly. Then decide your response in advance. Calm. Focused. Disciplined. This is how you remove uncertainty. Because when the moment comes, you've already chosen who you will be. This is not motivation. This is preparation. And preparation builds confidence. Now let's talk about discipline at a higher level. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to suffer. It's about alignment. Doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. And the reason most people struggle with discipline is simple. They let their feelings lead. But feelings change constantly. One moment you feel motivated, the next you don't. So if you rely on feelings, your progress will always be unstable. But when you say, "I control how I respond," you stop negotiating with feelings. You acknowledge them, but you don't obey them. That's the shift. Now let's go into something even deeper. Pain. Because growth is uncomfortable. There will be moments when doing the right thing feels hard. Waking up early. Staying focused. Saying no to distractions. Continuing when progress feels slow. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're expanding. And your response to that discomfort determines everything. Most people run from it. They choose comfort. They choose easy. And they stay the same. But when you embrace the discomfort and respond with action, you grow. Every single time. So the next time something feels hard, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "How will I respond to this?" That question alone shifts your power. Now let's bring this into your daily habits. Think about your routine. Your morning. Your work. Your time alone. Every part of your day is filled with small decisions. Wake up or snooze. Focus or distract. Act or delay. And each of those decisions is a response. So instead of drifting through your day, you become aware. You notice the moment before the decision. And in that moment, you choose. That's how ordinary days become powerful. Now let's address something real. Failure. Because no matter how disciplined you become, you will have days where you slip. Days where you react. Days where you fall back into old patterns. And when that happens, most people make it worse. They judge themselves. They give up. They say, "I'll start again next week." But that's not how you operate anymore. Because even in failure, you still control your response. So instead of quitting, you reset. Immediately. No waiting. No excuses. You say, "I control how I respond." And you get back on track. That's how consistency is built. Not by never falling, but by never staying down. Now let's go even deeper into mindset. There's a difference between knowing and embodying. Knowing is intellectual. You understand the idea. But embodying is identity. It's who you are. And the only way to embody this mindset is repetition with action. Saying the words, and proving them through behavior. Again and again. Until it becomes automatic. Until control is your default. Now imagine living like this for weeks. Then months. Then years. Think about who you become. Calm under pressure. Focused in chaos. Disciplined without force. That's not unrealistic. That's the result of consistent practice. Now I want to bring you back to the present moment. Right here. Right now. Because everything we've talked about means nothing without action. So today, you start. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. You carry these 5 words with you. Into every conversation. into every challenge, into every decision, and you live them. Because at the end of the day, your life is not built in big moments. It's built in the small responses you repeat daily. So choose them wisely. And if this message is speaking to you, if you feel something shifting inside you, don't just watch and leave. Subscribe to the channel. Because this is not just a video, it's a journey. And you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now take one more breath. And say it again, with conviction. I control how I respond. That's your power. That's your discipline. That's your new identity. And from this moment forward, you don't react. You choose.
Now let's anchor this even deeper, because repetition without reflection can become empty. And I don't want these words to just sound good. I want them to transform you. So let's slow everything down again. Think about yesterday. Not the whole day, just one moment. A moment where you reacted instead of responding. Maybe you lost focus. Maybe you got frustrated. Maybe you delayed something important. Now look at that moment honestly. No judgment. No excuses. Just awareness. Because awareness is where control begins. And here's the key. That moment didn't define you, but your next response will. So instead of carrying regret, you use it as training. You replay that situation in your mind. But this time, you respond differently. Calm. Focused. Intentional. This is mental rehearsal. And it's powerful. Because your brain doesn't just learn from real experiences, it learns from imagined ones too. So every time you do this, you're strengthening the version of yourself that stays in control. Now let's talk about something most people avoid. Your environment. Because even though you control your response, your environment influences how often you're tested. If you surround yourself with distractions, you'll constantly fight for focus. If you surround yourself with negativity, you'll constantly fight for peace. So part of controlling your response is designing your environment. Make it easier to win. Put your phone away when you need to focus. Choose spaces that encourage discipline. Limit what drains your energy. This is not weakness. This is strategy. Because strong people don't just rely on willpower, they build systems that support their mindset. Now let's go deeper into time. Every day gives you 24 hours. But it's not about how much time you have, it's about how you respond to it. Some people waste hours reacting, scrolling, complaining, overthinking. Others use those same hours responding, building, learning, improving. Same time. Different response. Different life. So when you say, I control how I respond, you're also saying, I control how I use my time. And time is everything. Now let's talk about focus. Because in today's world, distraction is constant. Notifications. Social media. Noise. And every distraction is a test. Do you react, or do you stay focused? Because every time you give in to distraction, you train your mind to lose control. But every time you resist, even for a moment, you build strength. So the next time your attention is pulled away, pause. I control how I respond. And return to what matters. That's how focus is built. Not in perfect silence, but in controlled attention. Now let's touch on something deeper again. Purpose. Because discipline without direction can feel empty. You need a reason. A reason to stay consistent. A reason to push through discomfort. A reason to control your response when it's hard. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? Not what you want, but who you are building. Because when your identity is clear, your responses become easier. You don't hesitate. You don't overthink. You act in alignment. That's power. Now let's bring everything together. You wake up. You say the 5 words. You visualize your day. You move with intention. You face challenges. You pause. You respond. Again and again. This is not complicated. But it requires commitment. And that's where most people fall off. They start strong, then they stop. They feel motivated, then they forget. But you're not most people. Because now you understand something deeper. This is not a temporary practice. This is a lifestyle. A standard. A way of operating every single day. And once you commit to it, everything changes. Your habits improve. Your focus sharpens. Your confidence grows. Your results follow. Not instantly, but inevitably. Now let's finish this with something you can carry forward. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up. Before you check your phone. Before you speak to anyone. Before you let the world in. Sit up. Take a breath. And say it, slowly, clearly, intentionally. I control how I respond. Then prove it. Through your actions. Through your discipline. Through your consistency. Because words alone don't change your life. But words backed by action do. And if you stayed with me this far, you already know you're not here by accident. So take the next step. Subscribe to the channel. Stay connected. Because this is only one piece of the mindset you're building. There's more to learn. More to apply. More to become. Now go into your day with clarity. With control. With purpose. And remember, no matter what happens, no matter what challenges appear, no matter what emotions rise, you always have one thing that no one can take from you. Your response. And that is your greatest power.
Now, before you move on, before you click away, I want you to understand something most people miss. This is not about motivation. Because motivation fades. It comes and goes. It depends on how you feel, what you see, what happens around you. But control stays. And what you're building here is not a motivated mind. You're building a disciplined one. So let's take this to the deepest level. Because at some point, life will hit you in a way that words alone won't feel enough. A real setback. A real loss. A real moment where everything inside you wants to react, to break, to give up. And in that moment, you will remember this. Not perfectly. Not instantly. But somewhere in your mind, a voice will rise. I control how I respond. And that voice will slow everything down. It won't remove the pain. But it will give you space. And in that space, you choose strength. This is what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's response. Now let's talk about pressure. Because pressure reveals who you really are. When things are easy, anyone can stay calm. Anyone can stay focused. But under pressure, your habits take over. So if you've trained reaction, you'll react. If you've trained control, you'll respond. That's why this practice matters even on your best days. Because you're not just preparing for today. You're preparing for the moments that will define your future. Now think about this. Every successful person you admire, they don't have perfect lives. They face stress, challenges, setbacks just like anyone else. But their difference is simple. They've mastered their response. They don't waste time blaming. They don't stay down after failure. They don't let emotions control their direction. They feel everything, but they act with intention. That's the level you're building toward. Now let's get even more real. There will be people who won't understand this mindset. They'll stay reactive. They'll complain. They'll look for shortcuts. And when you start changing, they may question you. Why are you so focused? Why don't you react like before? Why are you different? And your answer doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be explained. Because your actions will speak. Your discipline will show. Your results will prove it. Now let's bring this back to you. Your life right now is a reflection of your repeated responses. Not your intentions. Not your plans. Your responses. So if you want a different life, you don't need to change everything at once. You just need to change how you respond, consistently. That's it. Small shifts. Repeated daily. Leading to massive change over time. Now take a moment. Pause. Breathe. And really feel this. You are not stuck. You are not limited by your past reactions. You are not controlled by your current habits. Because starting now, you are choosing differently. Now, as we come toward the end of this journey, I want to leave you with something that stays long after this video ends. A simple practice. Every night before you sleep, ask yourself one question. Did I control how I responded today? Not perfectly. Just honestly. And if the answer is yes, even in one moment, that's progress. If the answer is no, then tomorrow, you try again. No guilt. No delay. Just growth. That's how you build consistency. That's how you build discipline. That's how you rewire your mind. Now, if this message has stayed with you, if you feel even a small shift in how you think, then don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel. Because this is not just about one idea. It's about building a mindset that carries into every area of your life. And you're just getting started. So as you move forward from this moment, carry the words with you. In silence. In action. In every decision you make. I control how I respond. Let that guide you. Let that ground you. Let that transform you. Because at the end of everything, when the day is over, when the noise fades, when the results show, there will only be one question that matters. Did you react? Or did you choose? Make sure your answer builds the life you want.